Pay attention to what I am about to say, for what I'm about to share with you has the potential to shift your perspective on the very fabric of your existence. In a world that constantly screams for more possessions, more stimulation, more complexity, I'm here to invite you to consider the radical idea of embracing austere living conditions. What would you have done if someone had told you that the key to true freedom lies not in accumulation, but in subtraction? As you navigate the complexities of modern life, it's easy to get caught up in the notion that happiness and fulfillment can be found in the latest gadget, the trendiest experience, or the most luxurious lifestyle. But what if I told you that some of the wisest minds in Western philosophy have long advocated for a different approach? An approach that values simplicity, discipline, and a life stripped down to its essence. You might recall the words of the Stoic philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, who wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This idea speaks directly to the concept of embracing obstacles and challenges as a means to grow and find freedom. For Aurelius, the path to inner strength and resilience lay not in avoiding difficulties, but in facing them head-on with a clear and focused mind. This idea is not unique to Stoicism, of course. The pre-Socratic philosopher, Heraclitus, noted that the way up and the way down are one and the same. Here, he's pointing to the paradoxical nature of life, where opposites are often intertwined. What seems to be a limitation or a constraint can, in fact, become a source of liberation. Think about it. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where what seemed like a restriction or an obstacle ultimately led to a new opportunity or a deeper understanding? Consider the example of the Cynics, a Hellenistic school of thought that advocated for a life of radical simplicity and self-sufficiency. They believed that by stripping away the unnecessary and embracing a life of austerity, one could achieve true freedom and inner peace. The Cynics were not advocating for a life of poverty or deprivation, but rather for a life that was unencumbered by the burdens of material possessions and social expectations. As you reflect on your own life, I'm sure you can think of times when you felt suffocated by the demands of modern living. The constant pressure to perform, to produce, to consume, it can be overwhelming. And yet, what if you were to turn this narrative on its head? What if, instead of trying to accumulate more, you were to focus on subtracting the unnecessary? What would you have to let go of in order to find a sense of freedom and lightness? Pause here for a moment. Think about this. What are the things that weigh you down, that make you feel trapped or suffocated? Share your answer below, and let's explore this idea further. The Epicureans, another Hellenistic school, also emphasized the importance of simplicity and moderation. They argued that the key to happiness lay not in excessive pleasure or wealth, but in living a life of moderation and self-control. For Epicurus, the goal was to live a life free from physical pain and mental distress, and to cultivate a sense of inner peace and tranquility. As you consider these ideas, I'm sure you'll notice that they run counter to many of the cultural narratives we're fed today. We're often told that success is measured by our possessions, our status, and our outward achievements. But what if this is not the only way to measure success? What if true success lies in the simplicity, the clarity, and the inner peace that comes from living a life of discipline and intention? This is where it gets interesting. The medieval Christian philosopher, Thomas Aquinas, wrote extensively on the nature of simplicity and its relationship to the human condition. He argued that simplicity is not just a moral virtue, but a metaphysical one, that it reflects the very nature of reality itself. For Aquinas, the simplicity of God is the ultimate reality, and human beings can only approach this reality by embracing simplicity and humility. Now, I know what you might be thinking: these ideas sound beautiful, but how do they apply to modern life? How can we possibly live in a world that values complexity and excess, and still find a way to simplify and discipline our lives? This is a fair question. The truth is, it's not easy. But I would argue that it's precisely because we live in a world that values complexity and excess that we need to consider a different approach. Think about your own relationship with technology, for example. Do you find yourself constantly checking your phone, scrolling through social media, and feeling overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information and stimulation? What if you were to take a step back and re-evaluate your relationship with technology? What if you were to set boundaries, to limit your screen time, and to cultivate a sense of inner peace and calm? This is important, for it's here that we begin to see the practical applications of these philosophical ideas. Imagine if you were to take a page from the Stoics and adopt a daily routine that emphasizes simplicity and discipline. Imagine waking up each morning with a clear sense of purpose, and using your time and energy in a way that aligns with your values. The modern philosopher, Henry David Thoreau, wrote about the importance of living simply and deliberately. He argued that by stripping away the unnecessary and embracing a life of simplicity, we can achieve a sense of freedom and autonomy that is essential to human flourishing. For Thoreau, the goal was not to accumulate wealth or status, but to live a life that was rich in experience, connection, and meaning. As you reflect on your own life, I'm sure you'll notice that there are many areas where you can apply these principles. In your relationships, for example, what if you were to focus on cultivating deeper connections with others, rather than trying to accumulate a large social network? What if you were to prioritize quality over quantity, and to invest in a few meaningful relationships rather than trying to maintain a large number of superficial ones? This is the part most people miss. The idea that simplicity and discipline can be a source of freedom and empowerment, rather than a limitation or a restriction. But I invite you to consider this idea, to experiment with it in your own life, and to see where it takes you. Join us every week for more reflections like this one, and you'd like to explore more ideas like this, consider subscribing to our channel. We regularly post content on philosophy, self-improvement, and personal growth. As you ponder these ideas, I encourage you to carry this thought with you. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 things you can do today to simplify your life and cultivate a sense of inner peace. It might be as simple as taking a walk outside, or as profound as re-evaluating your relationship with technology. And this is the part that will stay with you. The idea that true freedom lies not in accumulation, but in subtraction. That by embracing simplicity and discipline, you can find a sense of liberation and empowerment that is available to you right now. Which of these lessons resonated most with you today? Comment below. I read every single one. And as you go about your day, I invite you to carry this idea with you, that the freedom you seek lies not in more, but in less. Not in complexity, but in simplicity. not in excess, but in moderation. As the day comes to a close, take a moment to reflect on your own relationship with simplicity and discipline. What are the things that weigh you down, that make you feel trapped or suffocated? What are the things that bring you a sense of freedom and lightness? Share your thoughts, and let's continue the conversation. In the stillness of the moment, I invite you to consider the power of embracing austere living conditions. Not as a form of deprivation, but as a form of liberation. Not as a way to restrict yourself, but as a way to free yourself from the burdens of modern life. What would you have to let go of in order to find a sense of freedom and inner peace? The answer, of course, is unique to you. But I invite you to explore this idea, to experiment with it in your own life, and to see where it takes you.